Sponsorship of the KQED live audio stream is provided by the California Healthcare Foundation, supporting ideas and innovations in healthcare for all Californians. On the web at chcap.org.
I didn't shoot again for 20 years until my father-in-law got under gave me a design of Browning Sweet 16. Dogs hurtling in black silhouette like targets in video games, at least until you pick up a wounded bird and softly warm in your hand to break its neck. My son was a good shot. Once when a rattlesnake snuck up behind us, and I missed the shot twice, he took the gun and saved us with the last shell. After he left for college, I put my Smith & Wesson 20 gauge on the top shelf in the closet, where it has been for so long I've forgotten the combination to the trigger lock. I remarried and had young boys again, but I did not teach them to shoot. I think I had become ashamed of how easily I killed harmless creatures in my youth. What did that say about me? Nothing I wanted. A few months ago, my defender from Rattlesnake's son called to say he was taking his own son to a ski range. I know he likes my 20 gauge, and I've always told him he could have it, but before I got around to shipping it, 20 school children were massacred in town, Connecticut. My shotgun is still in the closet. As much as I love my son, as much as I enjoyed our days in the field together, I can't bring myself to send it to him. There are too many guns, doing too much damage. I can't get rid of them all, but I can get rid of one. The perspective.
Matt Clayton lives in Palo Alto. Share your thoughts on Matt Clayton's commentary online at kqed.org/perspectives. Support for Perspectives is provided by Comcast. Since 1963, Comcast has been dedicated to serving local communities by providing access to innovative technology, volunteering time, giving financial support, and partnering with community organizations like KQED. Next up is Star Date, and then back to All Things Considered.
Starting January 29. M31, giant Andromeda galaxy, is a near twin to our own galaxy, the Milky Way. Both are spiral galaxies, and they're about the same size and mass. And each has a supermassive black hole at its centers. The black holes themselves aren't exactly twin-like. The one in Andromeda is probably 10 to 20 times as massive as the one in the Milky Way. But the environments around the black holes are similar. Each is encircled by a cluster of bright young stars. Astronomers recently confirmed the cluster at the center of M31. It spans several light years and contains hundreds of stars. Many of those stars are hotter and brighter than the Sun, indicating that they're also more massive than the Sun. Such stars can't be very old. In fact, the cluster may be just 100 million to 200 million years old, compared to an age for the overall galaxy of more than 10 billion years. The cluster may have formed when a giant cloud of gas collapsed around the black hole, breaking up into smaller clumps that made individual stars. Today, these stars provide a bright contrast to M31's dark heart. M31 is in good view on winter evenings. Tonight, it's about 2/3 of the way up the western sky at nightfall, not far from the upper right corner of the Great Square of Pegasus. Under dark skies, it's visible to the unaided eye as a small, hazy smudge of light, the light of a galaxy that's much like our own. More about M31 tomorrow. And we have much more about black holes at blackholes.stardate.org. For the McDonald Observatory, I'm Sandy Wood.
Back now to All Things Considered. It's 11:35 p.m.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Audie Cornish.
And I'm Melissa Block. President Obama was in Las Vegas today making the case for one of his key campaign issues.
The time has come for common sense, comprehensive immigration reform. The time is now.
We're
covering specifics of the president's plan elsewhere in the program. Some elements dovetail with the plan announced yesterday by a bipartisan group of senators. For the next few minutes, we're going to talk about current border security. One key claim the president made is that his administration has already strengthened the border.
We put more boots on the ground on the southern border than at any time in our history. And today, illegal crossings are down nearly 80% from their peak in 2000.
NPR's Ted Robbins joins us now. And Ted, to start, the Senate plan demands that borders be more secure before any citizenship process is actually put in place. And of course, the White House says that border is already much more secure than it used to be. How do we know it?
Well, we don't. But it's hard to believe that with all the money spent and the tens of thousands of Border Patrol agents and aircraft, that it is less secure. And some numbers support that contention that it's more secure. The question is, what is secure enough and how do we know when we get there? And the big problem has been that the Department of Homeland Security does not have a measurement to say how effective it's been or what is secure. It's been working on a measurement called the Border Security Index for 3 years, still not ready. And some people in Congress wanted to go back to an old thing called operational control. How many miles do agents hold?
So help us understand in numbers that we do know.
Yeah, the numbers definitely show something. The recent high point was in 2005. 1.1 million people were apprehended crossing illegally. Well, the last numbers were for fiscal year 2011. That number went from 1.1 million to 340,000. So we're down 2/3 and the lowest levels in 40 years.
And of course, research has shown that illegal immigration into the U.S. has slowed in recent years for a number of reasons. Talk about those reasons and how that affects border enforcement.
Well, the primary reason the numbers have gone down, everybody agrees, is that the U.S. economy tanked in 2008. Lack of jobs, lack of a magnet to bring people here. The other reason is that there are 11 million people already here illegally, and they used to migrate, go back and forth. Now, with all the enforcement, it's harder to come and go, and so many stay here in the U.S. And lastly, the Mexican economy is improving. It's growing at a faster rate than the U.S. economy, and so there may be less of a need for people to leave.
One thing, Ted, is back in 2006, the Secure Fence Act implemented a plan to fortify the southern border of the U.S. What's the status of that fence? Do people think it worked?
Well, the fence seems to be working very well, keeping illegal traffic out in urban areas like San Diego and Nogales, El Paso. Not as well if you go a few miles outside of the urban areas. It has to be guarded in some ways with bodies, cameras, aircraft, and maintained pretty much 24/7 as crossers breach it. Remember, the border is 2,000 miles long. There are 700 miles of fencing, and nobody thinks that there's going to be fencing over mountain ranges, rivers, and cities and Indian nations. The other fence, quote, in quotes, is the series of towers, with cameras, radar, sensors, and there's been some mixed success with that and the thousands of ground sensors along the border.
And lastly, Ted, we've been talking about border security, but what about the ports of entry, non-citizens who enter legally?
Right. And the estimates there are from 1/3 to 1/2 of all the people in the United States illegally now came in legally and overstayed their visas. No amount of border security is going to solve that problem.
NPR's Ted Robbins. Ted, thank you.
You're welcome.
And the borders are not the only focus of immigration enforcement. More and more businesses are using a system called E-Verify to check whether employees are legally authorized to work in the U.S. Both President Obama and the bipartisan working group of senators want to expand that to make electronic verification mandatory nationwide. For more on E-Verify, I spoke with Musafir Chishti. He's with the Nonpartisan Migration Policy Institute. And he told us E-Verify has come a long way.
I think I'm a convert on this issue. I was skeptical about employer sanctions as the right tool to enforce immigration law. And I think the pilot initially showed lots of error rates. And we thought they would never be improved. And I think systematically they have been improving.
What were some of those initial concerns with E-Verify when it first started?
E-Verify is a database that combines Social Security's database with the immigration database. In the past, there were lots of errors, so you would get false negatives or false positives, false negatives with some of them actually be authorized to work, but the system would say that he or she is not. And the false positive would be when someone actually is not authorized, and the system would say they were authorized.
So let's explain briefly how it does work. Right now, if you're being hired by an employer who uses E-Verify, you present them with some form of ID, and then it gets checked in a computerized database. And what happens next?
The employer looks at that and he feeds that information into the electronic database and essentially responds back, like your credit card company will respond back with an approval saying that yes, this person is authorized or says it's not authorized. And if it says it's not authorized, then the employee is given the right to go to Social Security Administration and get a verification that he or she is actually authorized to work.
Now, are there still problems with E-Verify kind of loopholes? I mean, I can imagine that one could hand an employer any ID and say it's them, and the employer doesn't necessarily know if you are the person who belongs to that particular ID.
Exactly. The basic remaining drawback in E-Verify is about identity. There is no way for the system to know that the person whose document is being presented is the person who is applying for the job.
Do this temporarily for now.
Perfect the biometric photo ability of the system. And for this to be a truly effective, foolproof system, the voter identification system has to prove.
Now, some are proposing that in the new immigration legislation, E-Verify be expanded, possibly mandatory. What would that take?
I think we are headed in that direction, but it can't happen in a full sweep. I don't think E-Verify is ready for prime time. To say that we're going to move from 350,000 employers to 8 million employees in the country is a big leap, and I don't think we're quite ready for that in one jump.
Muzaffar Tashmi of the Migration Policy Institute, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Haiti has long been viewed as the basket case of the Americas, plagued by political unrest, hurricanes, and chronic poverty. A massive earthquake 3 years ago destroyed much of its capital, but the Haitian government is hoping to remake its image, marketing the country as a tourist destination. President Michel Martelly says Haiti can use tourism as a way to fight poverty. But NPR's Jason Bogan reports this kind of image makeover won't be easy.
Haiti used to be a Caribbean hotspot. Bill Clinton regularly recounts how he and Hillary honeymooned here in 1975. There used to be a hopping Club Med just outside the capital. Before HIV, Haiti also had a reputation as a sex tourism destination. The country now still has a lot to offer. It's got warm weather, miles and miles of undeveloped Caribbean coastline, rich history. Because of this, officials are now revamping the Cape Haitian International Airport as a gateway to the country's potential tourist attractions. Unfortunately, any tourist landing here in Cape Haitian would have to fight their way through this swamp that is downtown to get to any of it. The filthy streets here are not only jammed with overloaded motorbikes, there's sludge overflowing from open sewers. Piles of trash are burning by the airport. The roads are pocked with jagged potholes and missing manhole covers that could doom a family's vacation before they even reach the hotel.
My goal
Bigger
is to
hole.
position Haiti as a tourism destination and attract the leisure tourism.
Stephanie Vildran became Haiti's Minister of Tourism about a year and a half ago. She's become a barnstorming advocate for the country, touting its food, its beaches, and its culture to anyone who will listen. Vildran acknowledges that Haiti's tourism industry needs to be rebuilt, and it's tiny compared to the multi-billion dollars generated each year in the neighboring Dominican Republic. But she says tourism could be a major economic development for the
Outputs
country.
can be the
These
lower
revenues for our
of
economy
the two.
will help us
This guy.
eradicate poverty and take out people from the dens. So that's the message. Don't just send money through a wire or through an NGO for us. Come and experience Haiti because we have so much to showcase.
Visitors to Port-au-Prince, she suggests, stop by the National Museum, attend the voodoo ceremony, and dine on griot, a Creole dish of fried goat. The problem, however, is that Port-au-Prince isn't geared for tourists. Traffic in the
actually.
capital can be hellish.
Sorry.
Streets are unmarked, hotel rooms are hard to come by and expensive. Just last month, the U.S. State Department issued a stern warning for Haiti, noting the lack of adequate medical facilities, the presence of cholera, and limited police protection. Quote, no one is safe from kidnapping, the document warns. In recent months, travelers arriving in Port-au-Prince on flights from the United States were attacked and robbed shortly after departing the airport. It's in part because of these difficult conditions in the capital that two-thirds of the foreign visitors
Okay, so it's like this.
Never leave a fenced-off private beach on the northern coast. This is the resort of Labadie, just up the coast from Cape Haitian. It's reachable only by 4x4 over a terrible road or by cruise ship.
I don't like it.
Juan Belizaire is standing outside the black fence of the beach resort. Behind him, the largest cruise ship in the world, Royal Caribbean's The Allure of the Seas, is docked in the cove. Belizaire drives a motorcycle taxi between Labadie and Cape Haitian, but he says the thousands of cruise ship passengers don't help this deeply impoverished corner of Haiti because they aren't allowed out of the resort.
When the passengers come in, they stay only in the beach. The company take the passengers stay only in the behind the fence. I don't like it like that.
At Labadie, the first and the third worlds slam up against each other. Inside the fence, cruise ship passengers lounge in bikinis on the pristine tropical beach. There's a roller coaster, a water slide, a zip line. Outside the fence, a woman cooks rice and beans over an open fire. She sells lukewarm drinks out of a broken refrigerator that's been laid on its back in the dirt. Labadie is just 6 miles from Cape Haitian, but the road is in such bad shape that it takes 45 minutes in a 4-wheel drive to get there. The resort does generate revenue for the federal government, and it provides jobs, and some pre-screened souvenir vendors are allowed in. Supporters of the project also note that Royal Caribbean built a school in the area. President Michel Martelly, talking to foreign reporters earlier this month, said that despite its poverty and misery, Haiti offers visitors something different.
I'm sure you got me a feeling. You know, you just for the news. You have a feeling when you come here to Haiti. I'm going to Haiti, yes.
Martelly says tourism is a promising sector for the Haitian economy, and the government is spending millions on new airports, hotels, and a hospitality training school to try to tap into the multi-billion-dollar Caribbean tourism market.
I invite you to come and enjoy Carnival next month.
The musician-turned-politician says Haiti's pre-Lent carnival is the worst organized in the Caribbean, but the most fun. He adds you can get married 3 times in one night at the raucous street party. Joking aside, the Haitian president says his government is aware of Haiti's challenges, but he sees tourism as a major growth opportunity for the country. Jason Beaubien, NPR News.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
We are just about 11 minutes, maybe a little bit more, away from midnight, which is to say 11 minutes away from hour number 2 of All Things Considered. We hope you'll stay with us. And local underwriting is provided by San Francisco Ballet. From John Dumeyer, creator of SF Ballet's The Little Mermaid, comes Hamburg Ballet in the dance theater epic Nijinsky. February 13th through the 19th only. Learn more about Nijinsky at sfballet.org. And local underwriting by Brilliant Earth Ethical Origin Fine Jewelry. Conflict-free diamond engagement rings and other fine jewelry are available by appointment at its downtown San Francisco showroom or online at brilliantearth.com.
John Kerry's move to the State Department leaves a Senate seat to be filled temporarily right now. Then, in a special election come June, Saxby Chambliss and Tom Harkin will leave 2 more for November 2014. Ray LaHood's departure opens another cabinet job at the Department of Transportation, and Sarah Palin exits Fox News. I'm Neil Cohen, political junkie.
So you can use just K for I found this stuff that I like.
It's Talk of the Nation, a national public radio production that we broadcast at 11 o'clock each weekday morning and runs till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This is KQED
Liquid
Public
tape
Radio.
works pretty well. It's basically like liquid electrical tape.
I'm Melissa Block. And I'm Audie Cornish. And we are about celestial navigation. That is looking to the sky for guidance. But before we get too lofty, this story also happens to be about dung beetles. And so we start with this lowly, central, unpleasant fact about dung beetles.
The big oof and big rub. Eat dung.
Got one long lead for the one further from the plug.
That's Professor
And
Eric
then
Warren.
another.
He's an Australian professor of zoology teaching at the University of London this week. 5 years ago, he and a group of other scientists began studying the remarkable navigational skills of dung beetles. These insects harvest material from a fresh pile of feces in the desert. They shape their bounty into a sphere and roll it away.
They
on these, make sure they're good.
Course, or they
So again, we'll
might
take this back
accidentally
apart,
swallow
but the essential
back
layout
because lose
is
a precious dung ball to
of
another
your
beetle,
It's a little bit like the plant that you run go.
which means no food to feed the next generation. As you can see, there's a lot of
incoming power
beetles
hole.
making a beeline to the place they hope to roll their
And
hole.
these gets
Beeline for a
mounted.
bug, I think. Yeah, maybe a beetle line. Anyway,
Its
Professor
corresponding
Eric Wert and
outlet.
his colleague have just published conclusions about how the
And
dung beetles
on the other
keep to a
side,
straight path.
What we
these gets
discovered
mounted.
was that dung beetles can roll their
Its corresponding outlet.
in straight lines by using
So again, you'll do that inside the box or whatever other enclosure you use.
Billions
But
of
that's the
stars
essential
that
setup.
form a white streak across the sky serve as a guide for these little harvesters of waste.